This is gonna make some of you mad. Today I'm ranking 15 of London's most popular attractions from best to worst. Let's begin. And we're gonna start with the best at number 1, Hyde Park. This is probably London's most famous park, and it's so beautiful with the Serpentine Lido, the Rose Garden, and just the general greenery, especially in the autumn. It's just, And it's this incredible sanctuary right in the middle of busy central London. The pros of Hyde Park is that because it's so big that even in the summer, it never feels overcrowded. And I personally like taking the electric Lime bikes into Hyde Park and going on the cycle paths there because you can see a lot more of the park in less time. I also love that Hyde Park runs right into Kensington Gardens, which is probably my second favorite park in London. Is it? Maybe? Kinda. Cons are that sometimes they have these big events that are happening in the park, like Winter Wonderland, and a summertime gig series called British Summertime, which takes up a huge chunk of the green space, so it kind of hinders your experience when you go. Number 2, Tower Bridge. This is an icon that needs very little introduction, unless you've been calling it London Bridge. That is not correct. That is its ugly cousin just down the River Thames. It is not hard to love Tower Bridge. It's like a work of art, so beautiful. And I'm gonna loop in the Tower Bridge experience into this, which is above the bridge and is a great way to learn about the history of it. The pros of the museum are it's relatively affordable at about £13 per adult ticket and £6 for kids. It's also a manageable size, so you don't feel overwhelmed trying to look at everything. You can do it all in about an hour. I also love that they have these glass floors that are over the road of the bridge and you can walk on them. It's like really cool. Plus, it's right next to the Tower of London, which does make an appearance on this list. Cons are if you're on the actual road of the bridge, it gets very busy in the summer because everybody wants to go experience it, and it's also really windy in the winter, which is not very enjoyable. Number 3, Tate Modern. This is London's largest contemporary art museum that has some really interesting pieces in it. If you're into contemporary art, like this is the place to go, and it has a great location just off the River Thames in Bankside. Pros are that it's completely free except for a couple of paid exhibitions. So even if you're in the area and you need a toilet stop, this is a great one. Although if you have my London itinerary, you already have this toilet stop marked off in the toilet guide that comes with it. But ultimately, it is a great collection that is accessible to everybody. Cons are that it is a massive building, so it is a bit overwhelming and there is a lot to see. But that being said, it means that it also never really feels that crowded, which I always love. If you don't like huge museums, this next one is gonna be for you. Number 4, the Science Museum. The Science Museum is, you guessed it, a museum filled with a bunch of sciencey stuff. There's actually a lot of antique planes and vehicles on display too, which if you're into that kind of stuff, you're gonna love it. They also do special exhibitions, which sometimes you have to pay for, but I went to a photography one once there and it was free and it was fantastic. Pros are this museum is not too big, so it's not overwhelming and exhausting, and it's quite interactive, so it's great for both kids and adults. Oh, and it's free. Yay. Cons are because it is in what I unofficially call the Museum Mile, because it's right next to the Natural History Museum and the V&A, it can get very busy during the kids' like school holidays and also with just school groups coming in and out. Number 5, the Tower of London. The Tower of London is a historic castle/fortress that was built in 1066 under the Norman Conquest. It's been used as a prison, a zoo, a royal residence, and it's best known for its yeoman warder guards and for being home to the crown jewels. Pros are, while tickets are not cheap at £34.80 per adult, if you love really old history, you could actually spend the entire day at the Tower of London. There is so much to see. Cons are, because it's so big, it can be overwhelming, especially if you don't actually want to spend an entire day there. And personally, I don't, which is why I think doing the Tower of London is best with a tour. I have done 2 Tower of London tours with walks. One is a curated morning tour with a Blue Badge guide, which is a special certification, which means that the guide is one of the best in the country and they really know their history knowledge. That's their Tower of London tour and Crown Jewels with River Cruise tour. But my favorite way to do the Tower of London by far is their after hours tour and ceremony of the keys. It's a night when the tower is shut to everyone else, and you do a small group tour led by a yeoman warder guard as your guide. They take you around the grounds when it's super quiet, and then you get to experience something really special: the ceremony of the keys. This is a 700-year-old tradition of locking up the tower that they have done every single night. No one's allowed to film it. It's hard to get access to, but Walks has it. This is, in my opinion, the most unique way to experience the Tower of London. Thanks to Walks for sponsoring this video, and go click the links in the description box or scan this QR code to see their Tower of London tours and book them for the dates that you need before they sell out. Number 6, the V&A. The Victoria and Albert Museum is the world's largest museum of applied and decorative arts and design, and it's based in South Kensington, built in 1852. You can find basically anything art related here, from cartoons to stained glass to fashion to many other art things that I can't think of the words for. Pros are, this is a free museum. We love that. And I personally love all of the fashion exhibitions, and the courtyard to the cafe is so beautiful and relaxing. Cons are, this place is truly too big. There are over 145 galleries that you can see. Like, they should have halved that. Like, even half is too much. So I go in there and then I often get lost, and it takes me like 20 minutes to figure out how to get out. And then I'm exhausted after. Number 7, Westminster Abbey. I think everyone's heard of Westminster Abbey, but this is a historic church that serves as a royal burial ground, a place of worship, and the coronation church of the royal family. It was founded in 960. My tiny American brain cannot wrap my head around that. And it has been home to many of the royal family's weddings too. Just FYI, they don't let you film inside, so I have a few pictures, but otherwise everything is just outside. Pros, this building is extremely impressive. I mean, they just do not make them like this anymore. And there's apparently 3,000 people buried within the Abbey. Ugh. Cons are that tickets aren't cheap, and because there's a lot inside, I do recommend doing this with a tour guide because there is a lot to miss. I'll leave a link to a tour I've done a few times, which I think is really good, in the description box. Okay, we are at the halfway point, heading into not so good territory. Number 8 is the view from the Shard. This is a viewing point at the top of a building called the Shard, which used to be the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, but no longer is. Awkward. There are 2 main floors to the viewing point, the top one having the shards of glass crossing over at the top, so it's actually kind of open air. The pros of this viewing point is that if you get up there and it's a cloudy day, they will give you a voucher to be able to come back within the next month for a day that's hopefully a little bit more visible. That's what I had when I went to go film this. You couldn't really see that much. But of course, if you're visiting and you've got like your schedule jam-packed, then going back is potentially not an option. Cons are, the ticket prices are £32 per adult, and you don't get anything with that. Personally, I think it's better to book at Gong, which is a cocktail bar in the building. It's not as high up as the viewpoint, but at least you're spending £32 plus probably a little bit more on a cocktail with some views versus literally nothing else that comes with it. Yeah, I don't usually recommend the view from the Shard. I just think there's other options. Number 9, the Natural History Museum. This guy's pretty self-explanatory. It's a big museum in South Kensington with all things natural, like animals, dinosaurs, climate, rocks, clouds, space, all that stuff. Pros are that it's completely free to visit. We always love that. And it's right next to the V&A and the Science Museum. So if you just want to completely exhaust yourself doing 3 major museums in London in one day, then you can easily do that. Why you would do that? I don't know, but you do you. And there is a lot to see in the Natural History Museum, but it's not too much. You could realistically get it done in like 2 hours. If you kind of go speedy, it's not as overwhelming as some of the other museums. Cons are, because this is a free museum and it's somewhat kid-friendly, during the school holidays, you shouldn't go there. I once went between Christmas and New Year. And I swear to God, every single family that lives in the south of England was in this freaking building. It was insanity. It's also a bit old school and they haven't really updated a lot of the exhibitions, so it's definitely not the pinnacle of tech. Okay, now we are cruising to the worst. Just you wait. Number 10, Elizabeth Tower. This is probably what you're calling Big Ben, but actually that's not the correct name. The tower is the Elizabeth Tower, that's the actual structure. Big Ben is the name of the bell that is inside. And now you know. Of course, this is an icon of London, so why is it closer to the worst end of the spectrum? Well, the pros are, of course, most of us have grown up seeing the Elizabeth Tower in films and TV shows, so I do understand people do want to go and see it. And honestly, I love seeing it on a sunny summer morning when it's not that busy around, and it's just so beautiful. Cons are that this is the epicenter of tourism chaos. It stresses me out how many people will be in this general area and on Westminster Bridge trying to get their photos, especially in the summer and on a weekend. It's like you can't even move on the bridge sometime, and those amount of crowds, I just can't do it. Number 11, Buckingham Palace. This is one of the most popular attractions in London, with millions of people a year going to watch the changing the guard ceremony, take pictures of the exterior of the building, and if you go in the summer, to get tickets to go for a tour of the inside in the staterooms. Crucial information, the king does not live here. He and the queen live around the corner in Clarence House. But if you look at the flag at the top of Buckingham Palace and the Union Jack is flying, that means that the king is in the palace currently. Pros are, I do think the opportunities to go inside are really cool. So as I said, if you visit in the summer, they open up the staterooms for people to go in. You have to get tickets and they kind of sell out fast, but they usually do some kind of interesting exhibition, and it's just obviously an incredibly impressive building to see. I also recommend the Royal Mews, which is the working stable of the royal family. So the horses that they actually use are in the stables, and you can go see them along with carriages that the family have used over the centuries. You can actually get tickets for the Royal Mews all year, so I think that's a really cool option. Cons are that changing of the guard has become a must-do thing when you're in London, so if it is the summer and you're trying to go see it, God help you, because you gotta go like 30 minutes in advance. There are literally like tens of thousands of people trying to line up to see this ceremony, which actually only lasts like 4 minutes. And to me, the crowds ain't worth it, but you do you. Number 12, the London Eye. The London Eye is a souped up Ferris wheel that was built to celebrate the millennium, and now it is an iconic part of the London skyline. You basically walk onto a pod with about 30 other people and you go around in a circle for approximately 30 minutes. Pros are, of course, you get views of London if it's not a cloudy day, and this is the only viewpoint that you get a quite close-up view of, I was gonna say Big Ben, Elizabeth Tower and the Houses of Parliament. Cons are, people are ruthless in these pods. I got elbowed out of the way multiple times when I was trying to film because there's basically one corner that's like the best for photos and videos. And honestly, 30 minutes in a bubble with a bunch of strangers is just 28 minutes too long. Also, tickets start at £29 per adult, and we actually have other higher viewpoints that are free. So I always think the Sky Garden and Horizon 22 are great alternatives. Moving on to a museum that many of you will have on your list, but that has a very dark past. Number 13, the British Museum. This is the most famous museum in London with over 8 million artifacts in their collection and 80,000 on display at any one time, including the Rosetta Stone. Not the language learning app, the actual stone. Pros are, it's free and there's a lot of old stuff to look at, but in my opinion, it ends there. Cons, I mean, there's a lot, but the biggest one for me is this is the largest collection of stolen artifacts in the entire world. And there have been many calls over the years from countries who want their stuff back. And the British Museum are like, well, we might think about it. Like, just give them their stuff back. You have enough. You have almost 8 million things that are not even on display. Just give some of it back. I mean, come on. Number 14, Madame Tussauds. What? You don't know what Madame Tussauds is? Well, let me enlighten you, my friend. It's a large building of life-size wax figurines of celebrities of varying success, and also serial killers for some reason. If that sounds creepy to you, I feel the same. Pros of Madame Tussauds is that if you need something to keep the kids entertained on a cold and rainy day for 2 to 3 hours and you don't mind shelling out over 100 pounds for your family, then you got your spot. Cons. Where do I start? Creepy as heck. Multiple times out of the corner of my eye, I thought someone was leering over me and it was just a wax figure. You can't even touch the dolls. They also make you wait outside in line in the cold even though you have a timed ticket for entry. And honestly, I just don't get it. There are a million other cool things to do in London besides this. And finally, if you've been watching my content for a while, you probably know what is being ranked as the worst thing in London. Number 15, Leicester Square. This is essentially a large public square in between Piccadilly Circus and Covent Garden, and I will die on this hill. It is to be avoided at all costs. It's devoid of absolutely any culture, unless you're looking for dodgy casinos, international fast food chains you could get at home, like Burger King and McDonald's, and souvenir shops that sell virtually every flavor of vape you could ever want. Then maybe this is the spot for you. But I'm going to tell you, Simba, you must never go there. I mean, this is how passionate I am about this. I even got a hat made. Thanks so much to Walks for making this video possible. And to find out the unspoken rules that you will definitely break when you come to London, you should watch this video next, because I'm gonna tell you what those rules are, and you should make sure you follow them so you don't have any problems. Okay, bye.